In a show I did the other day, I suggested that perhaps it was best for West Ham United to sell a number of players this summer, as I was not certain how much commitment some of the players that we currently have got in playing for West Ham. And maybe we should be selling some of our star players in order to get a balance back into the squad. And with the backdrop of being told again that there is no money for transfers this coming summer unless we do sell players, perhaps that's another reason or a good reason to actually sell some of the players that we currently have. Now, the issue with no money has been contested, and it's understandable that it has been. Despite the claims by Sullivan via Sean suggesting that we're broke, the likes of Kieran Maguire has painted an altogether different picture of where he thinks our finances are at this moment in time. But despite all this, it hasn't stopped the avalanche of transfer rumours coming our way. Every day, we're linked to a new name or linked to players that we've been linked to in the past, and it's non-stop. And I don't know, no one's going to listen to whether we're at breaking point with FFP, PSR, or whatever acronym is currently being used to say that we're skint. Now, I do think we will sell players this summer in order to buy new players. There's nothing new here. We've always done this in the past, and this summer transfer window is really going to be no different. So when we kind of hear these stories that we got no money, everybody loses their minds. Everyone goes a little bit crazy, and oh my God, what are we going to do? But we've always sold players in order to buy players. Now, the only thing is that in the past, we haven't been very good at selling players. We barely make a profit on any of the players we sell, apart, of course, from Declan Rice of a few years ago. However, this summer, we've got more than just one asset that we can generate money from. We have several, and the vultures are already circling, trying to take advantage of our so-called pauper status. And this is the question I'm asking myself. Are we really broke? Or do I think we've got a few million quid squirreled away somewhere to make sure that we don't lose out on any lucrative deals that might be pending? Well, I need to break that question down into two sections. The first being, do I think we've got a few million quid squirreled away somewhere? Yes, I do. I think and the proof will be when the window opens and we start making our first official bid for a player. The second part of that question being, might we lose out on a lucrative deal or two? Well, I think we will. Now, whatever money we may or may not have, I'm pretty certain that we'll mess up at least one or two transfers in this summer's window and miss out on players that we should really be getting. So it's not really a matter of whether we got money that we're going to miss out on these players or not. It's about how we negotiate. And we all know with Sullivan back in charge, it may not be a great it may not be a great scenario when it comes to transfers. So anyway, we've been through the list of players who could be leaving West Ham this summer. Obviously, players out of contract. We know there's 6 of them. Fabianski, Creswell, Zuma, got to include him. Sufal, Antonio, and Danny Ings. Now, will any of these players get new deals? I don't know. Maybe one, at best 2. Plus, the 2 players on loan to us at the moment in Evan Ferguson and Carlos Soler are unlikely to stay. So altogether, that's 8 players looking like potentially leaving the club in the summer anyway. So we're not getting money for these players, but they will save us quite a lot of money in our wages. Something in the region of something like around £460,000 a week for those players alone, which equates to around about £24 million a year. So there's your money squirreled away. Excuse me, because if we really don't have any cash in the bank, there's £24 million that we're going to be saving by not spending on wages next season. But hang on, I hear you say that's 8 players off the books, but we've got to replace them all, and that means we're going to have to replace them with players who we're going to pay wages for. But this is the thing: I do think if we replace all 8, we're not going to be paying the sort of salaries that we're currently paying some of these players. Now, we're going to need a goalie, the 8 that are going, a goalie, a centre back, 2 fullbacks, a midfielder, and 3 strikers. That's just the players out of contract at the end of this season. And herein lies the beauty of what I'm expecting this summer from Carl McCauley and Max Hahn, the data gurus. We could replace all 8 players and have a salary bill of probably less than half of what we're currently paying. Now, there's a question mark whether we're still paying the salary for Kurt Zuma. I think Alaroba may have covered most, if not all of it. And he was on about 100 grand a week alone. But then I haven't included salaries for the likes of Soler and Ferguson. So I guess it swings and roundabouts when it comes to actual real figures. And then if we sell a few of our priced assets on top of 8 players leaving for good measure, our wage bill is going to be lowered yet further still. Let's say, for argument's sake, we have to generate something like, I don't know, 170 million pounds in order to be able to afford to get a new squad in. Well, the sale of Kudus, Paqueta, if he's acquitted, Mavropanos, Alvarez, Rodriguez, Agurd, Souček would bring in a tidy sum of at least 170, 180 million. You add up the figures and work it out yourselves. Now, that would be another saving. And if those players went, that'd be another saving of about £625,000 a week in salaries. That's another £32.5 million a year. So there you have 32 million there, plus another 24. There's your 55, 56, 57 million pounds in salary savings alone. But now, of course, we need to get 15 players through the door in order to have a squad of equivalent size to the current season. But being out of Europe, do we really need a squad that big? That's questionable. And anyway, I hear you say, we've got several youngsters coming through, so we should be able to fill several of these 15 vacancies in the squad. Well, I wouldn't be so sure about that either. Yeah, of course, we've got Ollie Scarles, who's now a regular in the senior team, and we're also pretty confident that Freddie Potts will stake a claim in the senior squad too next season. But there are still question marks over some of the other young players, academy players that we've got. So the likes of Lewis Orford, George Earthy, Callum Marshall, will they actually be part of next season's squad or not? Now, I'm going to say for now that I only see probably only 2 academy players appearing regularly in next season's squad, and that is Potts and Scarles. That still means that we're going to have maybe 13 players to have to recruit, to have to bring in over the summer. So can we afford to buy so many players and pay them Premier League wages while still keeping our heads above FFP? Well, I think we can. You see, Carl McCauley's aim is to target young players with perhaps a sprinkling of 1 or 2 veterans to ensure that we've got a bit of a balance in the team, a bit of experience there in order to go into next season. So who replaces who? How are we going to get all these 13 odd players? Well, I'm just going to focus on 3 positions just for now, just to give you a flavor, just to give you an insight how this is possible and how we can build a squad while staying well inside FFP rules come the end of this summer's transfer window. Now, for example, it's not certain whether we're going to give Lucas Fabianski another year on his contract or not. At 40, in all honesty, we should be looking to the future. And with speculation that we're in for Freiburg keeper Noah Atubolu, West Ham would do well to get this young 22-year-old German shot stopper to the club. Now, Atubolu signed an extended contract with Freiburg in 2023. And although the details are not out in the public, they're undisclosed, it is thought that his contract runs out this summer. Now, Atubolu developed through the youth ranks at Freiburg, and he slowly built up a steady reputation at the club. Could a move as backup to Areola with a view to becoming our number one keeper in the Premier League in a year or two be appealing to the player? I would say so. And if he does come on a free transfer, then there's the case of, okay, there's a signing on fee, which is not likely to be that much, as well as a salary likely to be an awful lot lower than what we're paying Fabianski at this moment in time, which is something like 65 to 70,000 pound a week. As a guide, Atubolu currently earns circa 3 grand a week at Freiburg. Next up is a defender who's had an outstanding season at Burnley. Now, CJ Egan-Riley has had it's been a great season. He's a product of the Man City Academy, but only got to make 3 senior appearances for the club. In 2022, at the age of 19, he moved to Burnley on a free transfer. As part of his development, he was loaned out to Scottish club Hibernian and then on to the Netherlands to play for PSV. And then it's been this season that's just gone has been really his breakthrough season. He's made 42 appearances in all competitions, 40 of those in the Championship, where Burnley have won instant promotion into the Premier League and only conceding 15 goals. 15 goals in 45 league games. That's phenomenal. And congratulations, by the way, to ex-West Ham player Scott Parker for having done such a superb job. West Ham manager of the future, maybe. But also congrats to a Burnley team who have not only been strong in defence, but also in attack as well. And at the heart of their defence has been CJ Egan-Riley. Strong, combative, and once praised highly by Pep Guardiola in saying, as a defender, he rarely makes a mistake. Strong in the air, times his challenges well. Could he make it in the Premier League? And furthermore, would he swap Burnley's claret and blue for West Ham's? Look, he's also out of contract at the end of this season, with suggestions that there's a standoff over contract negotiations. West Ham are said to have made contact with the player, and it remains to be seen whether he'll come to us or not. If he does, I dare say he'll be a direct replacement for Dinos Mavropanos, who we all know has not had the best of times at West Ham United. Now, it's expected that the Greek international will be sold in the summer for a fee of anything up to 10 million, maybe 7, 8, 9 million, something like that. Who knows? But if we do sell Mavropanos, and if Riley was to come in as his replacement, yet again, we're quids in. Mavropanos is earning circa 50 grand a week. Riley is earning circa 6 grand a week. So even if we were, let's say, for example, if Riley wanted a big fat signing on fee and a huge wage, even if we were to offer Riley a similar salary to Mavropanos, we'd still be up on the deal because the signing on fee will probably be a lot less than what we would probably sell Mavropanos for. And finally, for now, as another example, you can take your pick as to the variety or the various strikers that we've been linked to. Of course, apparently, according to some social media outlets, they're still saying that we've done a deal for Yuri Alberto. He's winging his way back from Brazil to wear the claret and blue of West Ham. I don't know. I doubt that very much, but let's see what happens. I'm also not convinced that we've looking to potentially sign 24-year-old striker and Greek international Vangelis Pavlidis. Now, apparently, there's an £85 million release clause in his contract, so I doubt very much that we'll be making any kind of bid for him either. However, over the last few days, news that Liam Delap may fancy a move to a club like West Ham as a stepping stone to attract a bigger team in a year or so is beginning to sort of take, fruition in a way. Now, look, there are going to be a number of clubs in for Delap this summer, without a shadow of a doubt. Ipswich, as we know, are confirmed relegated, and maybe the 20 and not maybe, but definitely the 22-year-old striker is going to be much in demand. But Just like CJ Egan-Riley, Delap is another product of the Man City system, the youth system. He spent time on loan whilst in the under 21s before moving to Ipswich last summer for a fee of around £15 million. Now, Ipswich agreed when signing him on a release clause of £30 million should they have got relegated. That's well within West Ham's budget. Even if we were to sell just one player, like we could sell someone like, I don't know, Alvarez, for example, for a similar sort of fee. Or we could sell Mohamed Kudus, of course, who would cover not only the 30 million for Delap, but several other players too. So even if we were to get way below Kudus's release clause, I know we want to get 85 million for him, but even if we got something like 70 million, that will still be more than adequate. But why would we get Delap? Well, the story goes is he's looking for guaranteed playing time. And he could be virtually assured that at West Ham United, he will probably start almost every game. And that might be the deal breaker. Sure, the likes of Man U, Arsenal, Chelsea will all be chasing Delap, but how much regular game time is he likely to get from any of these teams? And Delap would have experienced this already, similar scenario, when he was at Man City. So he will know how the wheels of these big teams works. And he would probably think to himself, well, I want to play. And maybe a season or two at a club like West Ham will give him that platform to demonstrate that he can, that he is an established, regular Premier League player. And then maybe in a year or two, other clubs may be knocking on the door even harder. I don't know. It's an option. So with Mohamed Kudus being on circa 90 grand a week, Delap's salary will be far, far less. It's rumored that he's only on about 30 grand a week, 25, 30 grand a week at Ipswich. So even if Delap's salary was doubled, it'd still be less than what Kudus is earning. And if we were lucky enough to get 70, 75 million for Kudus, the outlay for Delap would be less than half. Now, it's going to be a very interesting summer, to be quite honest with you. And when I look at these examples of the players that we could be going for, it gives me a bit of encouragement, because a lot of viewers sort of said, well, hang on a minute, we're going to sell all our big players and then we're going to buy cheaper players, less worse, not as experienced, etc. I don't know. Those three examples, those three players as an example, seem to demonstrate that we can do this. That we shouldn't be afraid of selling these big name stars in order to go and look for the next batch of players that could become big players in the Premier League. Now, I think another viewer said, well, does that mean, I think it was Nick actually, who said, does that mean that we're going back to what Brighton were 5 years ago? I don't know. I don't think so. I doubt it. I think what we're going to be looking for is that balance. The likes of Delap, everyone would want him, wouldn't they? I don't think there's a West Ham fan that wouldn't want him. We need someone who's going to be the successor to our goalkeeper. A lot of people have not got much time for Areola, and we know that Fabianski is getting older and, he may still be fit, but why not get a keeper probably on a free in order to be that next goalkeeper in the next year or two? And the same goes for defence. CJ Riley Egan is a prime example of how well he's done when he's left the big club. He's proven himself, in the Championship. And what are a lot of fans saying? Well, we should be raiding the Championship for some decent players. CJ Riley Egan is a good example of that. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that we're going to get these three players, but these are the examples that demonstrate that we shouldn't be afraid to look at selling some of our star players, because it's quite possible to replace them with younger, eventually better, and certainly at this moment in time, a lot cheaper.